You're on.
In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission will meet on Thursday, March 26, 2026, at 6:30 PM in Town Hall, Meeting Room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in person at 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass, or by the remote Zoom connection provided. Please note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connections. There's a Zoom meeting link and online. So first, I need a motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open the meeting.
Second.
Valso, and I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We need to have,
Yeah, you should do a roll call.
okay.
Yeah,
So
I think he's so.
we'll do a roll call since Adam's in the audience there. So we need a,
Aye.
There you
okay,
go.
There you go.
Paul Khalil, aye.
Jim Wilson, aye.
Valso, and I.
Okay, it
Excellent.
passes.
Super. So your first interviewee is here, Sean O'Donnell. I'll have invite him up and the mic,
Okay.
and then
Hello, gentlemen. In the interest of time, I won't go around and shake hands, but nice to meet you guys.
Quiet today.
there are no pre-prescribed questions, so just kind of introduce you. It's really more of a
Okay.
your interest, why you're interested in serving the Conservation Commission, just a conversation with the commission members.
Sure, sounds good. And I feel bad there's not more of an audience. I would have got a fan club going for some support here.
Stop the wave.
I'm actually, honestly, I'm learning a lot about town politics and all the formalities. I've watched a couple of the videos and read the minutes for the last few meetings, and I've really learned a lot by watching those videos and reading the minutes, and really impressed by all the great, I guess, questions you guys ask. I'll start by kind of introducing myself and saying that, Sean O'Donnell, I've been in Norfolk for 9 years this summer. Lived in Boston before that, from New Jersey originally. I have 2 kids in the school system, so a lot of my free time is spent with kids' activities, coaching, driving, also working, and all the other fun, life stuff. When I saw, and I think I mentioned this to people on the first call, but I think for not all you guys were there, so I'll kind of go through it again. I first saw this opportunity in the Norfolk Rentham Gazette a couple months ago, and I thought it was of interest to me just because I work in sustainability. Sustainability and environmental science is not my core background. I started as a CPA in accounting. Kind of worked for a large, I started in the Big Four public accounting, and now I work for a large cellular digital infrastructure company, cell phone towers, data centers. But with them, I've moved from accounting to audit to risk, and now I do sustainability there. So I have a strong background in kind of, corporate affairs and risk management, and I like to, think that I'm a quick learner, and I'm a lifelong learner. I graduated from Holy Cross back 20-some years ago, economics accounting, and got an MBA from Northeastern about 5 years ago. So I do pride myself in being kind of a lifelong learner, and there's a lot of interesting discussions and materials and stuff going on in this committee from what I've learned, and I've just really want to kind of hopefully help out, put my hat in the ring if you guys so choose me for this role. Would be excited to kind of jump right in and maybe do some trainings like you guys suggested in the first call, but in general I'm a pretty quick read, and I feel like I get up to speed pretty quick, even though listening to some of your questions during the last couple of meetings, I'll admit that I was a little over my head that, I don't know where those questions come from, but they seem like really good questions, and I kind of get the intent of why you're asking, really protecting the wetlands and the 50-foot, 100-foot, so all logical questions, but I'm not sure I would have come up with them right away or known the answer, but it seems like there's a lot of reliance on the agent, which I'm keen to learn a little bit more about with that transition, because without that agent in play, I'm curious how you guys kind of arrive at your conclusions. Maybe you get there there independently, but I would think I would have a little bit of trouble getting there if I didn't have an agent to kind of follow on the aye or the motion to kick it to that next meeting. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. Happy to answer any questions. I can try to come up with some more questions for you guys, but whatever you guys want to do.
So it's kind of a hands-on approach to learning.
Okay.
We do have materials that, explain the bylaws. And I think, for me personally, I learned a lot I had a background anyway, but learned a lot by going back over the meetings over the last year and a half or so when I started. And to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at and stuff.
Right.
And just so you understand that, we normally have 7 members, and then we have a chairman, a vice chairman, and a clerk. The 3, the vice chairman, the chairman, and the clerk don't have any more say in what goes on in the commission than anybody of the other members. Where all votes are equal. Never going to say, we need you to vote this way, and if somebody does, then they need it to be checked. If you don't agree with something, that's fine. You can say, I don't agree with it for this reason. And it may be something we discuss, and you might, and that's fair, especially when we're looking at plans and stuff. So, that's my take. So
I'm curious, is there, I've only watched 2 and read 3. Is there ever a dissent? I didn't see any dissent, and believe me, I'm not looking to come in and rock the boat at all. I'm probably going to, follow suit to a large extent while also kind of having an independent perspective, hopefully. But yeah,
I don't think it happens a lot. We usually have good discussion, and but I don't think we normally have a lot of disagreement. And there hasn't really been much disagreement for a while.
since Seekonk Street. We did have one, and we had some people on extremely polar opposites view of what was going on, and for different reasons. And that's going to happen in any group.
That's correct.
And we've
With
had,
any board member, any committee of any sort. You got 7, 8 individuals but for the most part, we try and be cohesive and work together versus, working apart for the most part. And honestly, it's all about, right and wrong. There really is no gray area, and politics should not come into play in any of those matters. I just got a, small quick question for you in regards to your busy schedule and youngsters and all that. Do you suspect there would be any scheduling conflicts about whatever duties you would have if selected for the Conservation Board?
Sure. So I think the meetings are on the first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah, but there are other
Tonight.
events that you may or may not need to attend as a board member, but for the most part, that is correct.
Yeah, and I noticed there were, when I was going through the minutes, there were some in-between meetings, so maybe a January 1st and then a January 14th, a mid-month, and it was a 3 p.m. time. I can't remember the exact matter. Okay, and so I think the answer to your question is with enough kind of foresight or pre-advance notice in terms of when the meetings are, I don't see that really being a problem, especially with the ability to do the hybrid and the virtual. I think I can, generally plan. For example, next Wednesday, there's a school meeting. My son's 6th grader becoming a 7th grader, and over at KP, they have a kind of a welcome for the new students night. So, that I've already kind of told my wife I would go to with her. So there are, but again,
of course,
and not that I'm trying to get ahead of myself in terms of being on it, and I'm also not necessarily taking one of the first 2 spots either. There could be conflicts, but I think if, knowing in advance, I could plan around it generally. So I don't foresee that being a significant issue.
At this stage, surely.
And also, even with work, I'm in the city 3 days a week on the train, and I actually came here from the train today. Pretty good, with the remote world after pandemic of being on Zoom calls wherever I am within reason.
Nowadays, sure.
So no, I don't think that would be an issue, but it really depends if there's like last minute type things where it's thrown up, but we need to like do a site walk here. That could get
Normally not.
complicated. But
Normally
it's
not.
Things like this, I don't see that being a significant challenge.
Yeah, there would be,
Well, minimum, they have to post a meeting 48 hours in advance, so it's really, that's about as quick as it gets, so
Okay.
to speak. Yeah.
Tight time-wise, sure.
Yeah.
and, if we ended up having one of our large projects that we end up having to go in executive session that may be on a different day, we would know well enough in advance that that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be like, tell you today that 2 days from now we got to meet
Right.
at,
Yeah, and then we also we'll do site visits sometimes, but we kind of see from the group like when people are available, and somebody might not be able to make it.
Sometimes we try and do it on the weekends, different days varying, depending
Yeah.
on schedules, sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Senior Adam has a question.
Oh, yeah, me. Back to the unanimous decisions, basically, we're all there because we want to protect the wetlands and the waters of Norfolk. And there's really pretty specific guidelines about what you can and can't. And the only, like Paul said, it's pretty black and white. The only gray area is like within the 100-foot buffer, well, then you have to do mitigation. And, so we come to these unanimous decisions because when there's something on the line, we can require them to do things to mitigate any damage they would do. And so that gray becomes even, it becomes black and white again. So. And plus, the meetings off hours, a lot of it's, a hearing on the old hospital site, and those are helpful to expose yourself to as much as possible because you get to know so much more about the town and the history and the complications. I'll shut up now.
No, that all makes sense. Yeah.
So we have,
And we did talk about just that, at some point, we're pretty confident that permanently, remote meetings will be done at the state level. We talked about earlier that, post-COVID, they've been continuously extending it. So I would imagine that going forward, this will be the new norm, right? So, which creates the flexibility for all of you. So that option is now available, which is a real positive for juggling things in terms of, life, work, volunteering.
And I'm sure you're aware, if indeed you do accept or selected, it's a 3-year sign-up.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware of
we'd
it.
have to check on that.
Yeah, we talked a little about that during
Yeah,
the
so
last one.
so replacement of Al it would be a 3-year.
Oh, he's right here.
Al?
Al, okay.
Drop the V. And then, so David's is 2026.
Okay.
Excuse me, 2027, sorry.
Yeah.
And as you know, I know Peter's working to move,
Yeah.
and his would be a full term too. So, because his expires this year.
Okay.
So there's really only one that's 2 years, but the other two,
So they go, it's not like planning we have to run, it's just you're appointed for three years, and if somebody leaves in the middle, then that term has a year and a half.
Right.
That was my question to
Yeah.
Richard, so that's how that works, so.
and we already talked about the commission will, make a recommendation to the select board, and then the select board will make the appointment. Sure. So it's a little more time before anybody interviewed tonight will get on the commission.
Right,
So.
as far as I understood, unless it's changed a bit, all the applicants would have to go before the selectmen, isn't that correct? Or
Yeah,
changed?
that's a fair point, right? So I think they're gonna, probably all four would go before the select board, and they're gonna ask for the commission's recommendations, because you actually have more applicants than you have openings at this point. It may be worthwhile to kind of figure out who eventually might be Peter's replacement, and, so we could talk about it a little bit more. I mean, it's,
Every day's an adventure.
yeah, it's an adventure. say the least. Did you have other questions, Adam, or anything?
No, I've read through the resume and, it's a lot of valuable brain power, sounds like, so, I don't have any more questions.
Okay, excellent. My only question myself was, hopefully I didn't space these too far out. We'll see.
I got a couple questions.
Go ahead, yeah.
One, have you guys figured out who the commission chair is going to be with David stepping down?
This time.
Okay, all good. And in terms of the agent, I know you're
That
pursuing
wouldn't be you, by the way.
No,
To be clear, okay?
I would not accept that either. That would be, yeah.
So in terms of the agent position,
Yeah.
says we're pursuing, moving forward with share of the agent with the
Yeah.
town of Rentham. In terms of the discussions between Rentham and Norfolk, they're both in alignment. The town administrators are in alignment. The select board, here at least, I was before them, I'm trying to think when it was just a couple.
Is this conservation?
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, it was kind of a straw about supporting the share in that. So
Sure.
May 13th town meeting
Okay.
in Norfolk, June 1st town meeting in Rentham. I think we would want to try to, once we at least get past our town meeting, get it advertised so we can get rolling, so we're not too far into the year, would not have an agent, because believe me, agent soon.
More, right?
Yeah, she left in
Okay.
February, early February, yeah, so.
So in the meantime, obviously she makes recommendations, a lot of the
So
decisions.
she's helped out with a few things, her time is rolling off, she'll make,
Rentham. We're going to be sharing Rentham's.
So the Rentham person's still
at
here.
this-
Okay, or they still have their person, so you'll be leveraging them
at
in the
this
meantime,
point,
and they'll
Till
be.
we get
Got
someone
it. Okay.
in between,
And
that
then-
is correct.
and then there are projects that come before the commission that might be a little bit more involved, where we might need to hire a third party to do the review on behalf of the commission. So they would be advising the commission. And I'd probably mention, and it's fine, we could discuss it here. I mean, we know that Caitlin was on maternity leave, so we kind of went through this just not too long ago, where I was kind of filling in the gaps, and there was occasions where some of those projects that came before the commission, we had a third party do the reviews on behalf of the commission to help them with it. And
Yeah,
so-
they did site views,
Yeah.
recommendations, filled out the forms for us. And then,
We have assets at hand.
Sure.
Yeah.
And who pays for that?
So the
We all
third,
do one way or another.
the third party, the applicant pays for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's been the case. We also, if we had to, there's money within the budget to get technical assistance if we really
Okay.
needed it.
Yeah.
So it was resources, right? So
Interesting.
we are gonna limp a little bit, I'm not gonna tell you we're not, because we're gonna hobble whatever till we get to a new agent, but
Yeah.
we'll get through it. And plus the
Just
board,
adapt and overcome. We'll get it done.
yeah.
Like I used to tell my guys, I got my best guy on it, not to worry.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, so, no other,
Any other questions for this gentleman?
no, I mean,
Where did you live in Boston?
I wanted to know about Jersey myself. I'm a former Boston guy, but
Sure.
Jersey, I'm looking at him funny.
North Jersey was when I was
I'm only teasing.
born and
We're in
raised, and
Boston.
then but I've been in Massachusetts for close to 30 years now, and probably about 18 years in
We're
New
in
Jersey.
Boston.
So Austin, Brighton originally, but then mostly Southie. Probably about 12 years in Southie. So, and a few different spots in Southie.
all right, so might as well. In Jersey, where did you live?
Morristown, the
Oh, I know Morristown.
Seeing Eye Dog capital. George Washington stayed there for a bit. Yes, the Colonials, bit of a
My
historic
brother-in-law
town.
and sister-in-law live in Brookside, so
Okay.
I'm very familiar with Morristown.
Yeah. But we're all up in Massachusetts now. My brother lives in Newton, and my parents now live in Rentham.
Wow.
So we all migrated north.
Interesting.
So.
Excellent. Great.
Yep.
All right.
So,
So I think we've explained the position fairly well,
yeah.
what's
I
expected
think we did have a,
out there.
yeah, we did.
And then we do have the ability to either print or get you a link for the Norfolk Wetlands Act that we have, so that you can look at, and it explains the whole wetlands, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what, all that type of stuff, so.
We did talk about that in terms of the applications. They'll come through the Google Drive, shared documents, so it's done electronically. You do get some paper at the meetings, but for the most part, everything is digital.
Like this stuff was on the OneDrive
Yeah.
a few days ago, so that we can view it at home beforehand in your free time. So if it's not like, if you haven't looked at it, if you didn't get it, you had to come in and, a half an hour early to kind of look at things, you can look at them ahead of time.
Right.
And then it gives you the advantage of sending an email to Rich if you say, hey, this is coming in front of us, I have a question what this means. A technical question, or,
Yeah.
those type of things that are going on with the property.
One thing I will, if you get appointed, tell you right off the bat is no email communications amongst commission members, and that would be against the open meeting law.
Yeah.
So any communication back, it's either Elaine or myself, and then we can communicate with you that way, but that's.
Yeah, I found that interesting. You mentioned that last time, that you
Yeah.
can't really have the
You
side
really have to-
conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes it can be more challenging today because you do a lot of things with email, so you
Yeah.
have to be really diligent about that. And I already did say that you would have you guys appointed a town of Norfolk email, so you would get your own email assigned, so that's how the communication was
Okay.
back and forth in terms of email-wise. But.
Sure. In terms of total hours, what would you average per month, would you say, between meetings and reading, prep, all that?
So we've got a Southwood Hospital coming up within, I don't know, a year, 6 months, 2 years. We really don't know, but for me, I've spent probably 3 or 4 hours a month just looking at history and stuff like that on my own. And then types of chemicals and that could be in the water or in the soil and that. So I do that stuff on my own. And then probably, if you didn't do any of that, probably a half an hour to an hour going over the drive before the meeting, so kind of get an idea of what's going to happen before the meeting happens. And then the one thing we can't do is we can't go out to a site. So say you saw 1 Main Street come up as a project, and you're like, I'd like to go out there and see what it looks like before the meeting. We're not allowed to go on the property unless we get permission from the landowner first. So we can't do that part, but surely in a meeting, if you had questions and said, is it all right if we go out on a time, or, so
That's what we
that's how we
set
get
up the
around
site
it.
visits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've done that with my kids before.
Sure.
Just get permission from the landowner to say, hey, can we go out? I'm going to take pictures, take the kids with me, take some pictures with the kids. And so, yeah, just got to make sure because any questions like that being new.
From meeting to meeting.
It's gonna go up and down depending on the.
Yeah.
And, but, it's not a phenomenal amount of time, perhaps 5-7 hours in total a month. That's between reviewing any and all the emails, the meetings. Meetings can average an hour, 2 hours, depending on what's in front of us.
Right.
And then if, as we were saying, any site meetings, et cetera. So, but approximate, it varies, but it's not terrible.
Okay.
Excellent. So like an interview, we'll say, we'll get back to you, so to speak.
Well, I know where to find you guys now that I know all these
Yeah, you
meetings
know where to
are
find us.
publicized.
Oh, yeah, you know where to find everybody.
Ah, you knew all the players' name. That, I'm impressed in their extinction even,
Yeah.
you know, which is, you know, a grand thing. It shows you're diligent and doing homework. So,
I try. Thanks.
you
Excellent.
go.
So, certainly appreciate it. Thank you for coming in, and then we'll get back to you, or I'll get back to you.
Thanks for having me, and regardless of what happens here, I've learned a lot just going through the process, so thank you very much.
Have a
Nice to
great
meet you.
evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, Marty, you get to,
Want me to take the chair?
yeah,
That's fine.
it's more for
All that.
audio. For
It's also more comfortable.
There you go.
I figure you can start off by,
Noticing they fixed the clock.
they fixed it, they took it away. Yeah.
It actually moves now. It was over there and it was always at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, well, there's a story behind that clock, but we
Yeah,
can
no.
tell you later.
It's a
Right,
different-
twice a day.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's always right, twice a day, that's correct.
Anyway, I'm Martin Goldstein. I live on Bridie Lane. I've lived in Norfolk since my son is 42, so about 40 years or so.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm a newcomer.
New guy.
And
Yeah.
I used to be the town planner for the town of Milford for about 7 years. I worked for the planning board. I worked for the Conservation Commission, attended every meeting, attended all the town meetings, did zoning changes, zoning bylaws, master plan work, just about everything, economic development acts, whatever was involved at the town. Milford had grown very, very fast, and as I explained earlier, they wanted to slow down the development because the developers were doing a pretty poor job of being responsible with regard to wetlands, with regard to installing septic systems, with regard to paving, everything. So when I was there, me and the engineer, town engineer, were very diligent in controlling the development. And the development was very, very brisk in Milford. They attracted a lot of subsidized housing early on, and developers took advantage of it and built a lot. And there were impacts, there were a lot of subdivisions that came in.
40Bs.
A lot, yeah. But this was really before 40Bs, so they had small, this was a lot of other programs that they had the rights to do it, but they just didn't get a handle on it. When I worked there, I worked with a very strong planning board chairman, and
How long ago?
I was there 7 years.
7 years ago. How long?
Oh, no, how long ago? That was, all
I'm
right,
not meaning to date you or anything, or, you know,
So
just,
I thought you had all seen my resume. All right, so I worked there for 7 years, and then after that, I went into the opposite end. I went into development with a company you've probably all heard of, Fafford. You ever hear of, anyway, he's a developer in Ashland, build a lot of things, a lot of residential, has a shopping center in Holliston, Ashland. So I worked for them for 2 years, and then I worked for a private firm doing development of Levi Strauss stores around the country. So for the last 35 years, I worked getting approvals for retail stores, whether they were Levi's stores or Brookstone stores. For 17 years, I worked for Levi's for designs, and then for 15 years, I worked for a company called Brookstone, which you probably all heard of. The chairs in the airports, the airport stores. I did all the Boston stores. I did every store that you've seen in the United States was done by me. That meant the design, the planning, the approvals, and the ultimate construction, the sign-offs. And after 911, the process in the airports was just ridiculous. It was very, very tough to get anything built, anything approved. But we did a lot of stores, and we did a lot of good stores, and worked with unions, this, that, and the other thing. So first 7 years I worked in public. I was also the MAPC representative for the town of Milford. We have a rep. So I did that. I was involved with Dukakis and Ed King in Boston. My kids grew up here in town, both went to KP. I love the town. I love being here. I am active in the town. I was on a downtown, some committee that was very short-lived, Downtown Development Committee here 30 years ago, and it lasted like a few months, and then it dissolved. I mean, nothing was happening. It was long before the development here in town. Anyway, so that's my experience. I know Conservation Commission, I know the Planning Board, I know how town politics work, I know how town government works, more importantly. I want to just be able to contribute. I believe in open space, I believe in the meticulous, careful development of land is allowed, it should be done, and it should be respected. And Conservation Commission for drainage, for urban, for the rural feel of the town, all those things come into play in terms of being on a Conservation Commission. And I just want to give my services. I'm in the woods 4 days a week, 5 days a week. I'm a mountain biker, so I was in the woods for 2 hours today. That was in Medfield, but yesterday I was in Norfolk. Rode through the area that the solar farm is, and I think you and we had talked about the solar farm. I ride through there a lot, that Linden Farm area, so I'm very, very familiar with it. Most of my riding is done in Foxborough, Rentham State Forest, Foxborough State Forest, Franklin State Forest, and Linden Farm. But I'm in the woods like all the time. I see the hay bales, I see the work that's done by developers, and I see whether or not they take care of what they're doing or whether they even pay attention to it after it's put down. Usually it doesn't have to be, but for the most part, they seem to try to do the right thing. That's really it.
Well, it sounds like clearly you have a lot of experience, vast experience, and that's always a plus, as you know.
Sure.
A couple of quick questions, and again, just to get a better feel, and I just quickly perused your resume here, and as I say, it reflects what you just said.
Yeah.
I assume you're retired or semi-retired?
I retired in 2017, and people ask me, what do you do? And it's like, I love it. I don't know how I worked for all the years that I did work.
See, I must be doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm working harder now. My wife's honey-do list than when I had two jobs, all right?
Well, I still have that.
So, yeah.
But I like being retired. I mean, if I didn't have...
It's a grand life, surely. My wife's enjoyed her retirement.
Well, my wife worked for the town of Norfolk for 20 years also. She's retired. Yeah, she worked in the school system. She was the school adjustment counselor.
There you go.
Carol Goldstein. And so she's very active. She knows all the teachers, everyone, goes to all the retirement, all that stuff. So we've been really involved in the town, and I use the resources of the town. They should be, they're great. This is a great town. I am very fortunate to be where I am as a person that mountain bikes 5 days a week. I have some of the best riding, the best woods available.
Trails,
I mean, the trails are amazing in Foxborough. They're known throughout the country, and I know that because I've read mountain bike magazines that talk about it. There were movies. I don't know. Did you know about the movie that was filmed in Foxborough about 8 years ago with forget the name of the actor, but there was a movie film there, and I'm mountain biking there, and there had been 15 trucks, lighting trucks, They were all at the top where the communication center was, but they were all there, and the movie is a real movie. And it says, thanks to the people at Foxborough State Forest for allowing us to film this. So it was really cool, and they did it responsibly. I know when there's motorcycle races in Lynn Farm, every year they have them once a year, the little kids, the older kids, and then the adults. And then responsibly, the people that get ready for the race redo the trails every year. And I've been riding for over 30 years. At the end of the race is deep ruts throughout the trails. 2 days later, 3 days later, they've all gone there and filled in all the ruts. So there's no erosion, there's no continual drain problems. The drainage in Foxborough and Franklin, all those trails are really kept up well. People are, they're a good, responsible people that take care of a lot of the natural resources here. And I want to make sure it continues, that's all. I use them, so I might as well make sure.
So on that note, do you have a favorite trail that you like to ride on?
Well, since I live on Bridie Lane, it's really nice to have Lynn Farm, because I could ride there on my bike, but I don't. I usually take my car, and Foxborough, there's a place in Milford that's called Vietnam. I don't know if you know about that. About 15 years ago, the Mountain Bike Association of Massachusetts bought about 150 acres there, and Vietnam is really well known throughout the United States, and it's just an amazing trail. It's right off of 85, off of 495. It's really amazing. So I can go there and park in a parking lot, and there will be 10 other cars there unloading their bikes. Everyone's mountain biking. You don't even see anyone. There's so many trails. There's hundreds of trails, and literally miles and miles of trails. But for day-to-day, the best trails are Foxborough State Forest that I love them. Rentham is the most difficult one. It's very churty land. It's very rocky. It's very difficult. And you could ride where the parking lot is on that side, but most of the riding is done across the street on the other side. It's great. You just get in your car, you drive there, you take your bike out, and you go in the woods, and you're there for a few hours. And I have a friend that I do it with. He lives in Franklin, but we're out there all the time. So I see a lot. I mean, I see every animal that you can imagine, except for a bear, which I'm very happy to say.
Ditto.
But a bobcat I saw, the one that lives here in town, and that was up by Lynn Farm. I see a deer every day, but we all do.
I hear the meerkats at night.
Yep.
Screaming.
And I've had those, what the hell are they called? I can't remember the name, but the whole family of them I came across on a trail. And there's a lot of dogs there. I mean, and there's races there. But the stewards of the land are really good, because people hike there, people mountain bike there. They snowshoe there. You are allowed to use snowmobiles, although no one did, unfortunately, this year. And the DEP doesn't have a snowmobile, so if someone got hurt, they couldn't get out there to people. But throughout this whole snow, this entire winter, I was there. I ride on top of the snow. You get to use this stuff. It's great. It's nice having it here. I mean, 5 towns are right within 10 minutes of my home. I'm very lucky. And I've ridden all over the world. I've ridden in Italy and Australia. I've ridden in the West Coast. I've ridden in Colorado. I mean, it's one of my big hobbies. So I like doing it. So it's a lot of fun. So having something so close to here, I want to make sure it's taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the right thing to do.
Adam's over
Adam, you
here.
have a question?
Well, not exactly a question. Thank you for joining us, and your information. It sounds very encouraging. But just as a point of interest, REI came in front of our board about Lynn Farm, and so, we did some communication with them, and I don't remember exactly how formal it was, but they wanted the authorization to come out there with groups, and in the and to do that, they agreed that they should do some maintenance on the trails and stuff. So it's, one of the reasons Lynn Farm is so great is it's a cooperation. You probably even know about it.
I actually met the REI guys there. I was riding, I was riding there, and I saw a bus, and I saw about 12, 15 kids there get out with their bikes, and they tooled around. I was in the parking lot, and I met the guy that runs it, and he's a mountain biker himself, and we talked a lot about the, I guess they're trying to, there's either an easement or a right-of-way, or there's some sort of trail that they want to continue that goes through there, so we talked a little bit about that. And he also, the guy from REI, I believe he either works for DCR or has some involvement with them, but we did talk. But the kids were there, I was out in the woods with them, and it was great. I mean, I got into mountain biking 30 years ago because my son and all his friends here in town started mountain biking at Foxborough State Forest, and all the fathers had to take their kids and drive them there when they were 12, 13 years old, unload their bikes, get them the helmets, have the water, the camelbacks, the whole thing, and they'd ride every week. And all the fathers are saying that they must know something. I was playing basketball in town and playing volleyball and doing stuff like that, but mountain biking I could keep doing. The other things I really couldn't. So they got me into it 30 years ago, but it's seeing kids out there learning to ride responsibly. There's nothing better. You're in nature for a few hours. You spend a half hour preparing. You take water. You have to be responsible. You have to take care of yourself. You have to learn to take care of other people. It's a great sport, and REI seemed to be doing the responsible thing. I saw them there a few times, maybe 2 or 3 times with kids. I didn't see them. And this was a year or two ago, I think, maybe 3 years ago, but I did see them, and they said that they were developing a program. Then I saw another group that is a high school group, and they weren't associated with REI, but they also wanted to use Lynn Farm to do mountain biking. Now, I've seen groups at Foxborough State Forest, never at Rentham, because that's really a tough place, never at Vietnam in Milford, but I think it's a great sport, it's a responsible sport, and the more people that get involved, I think it was a good thing. But the other part of it was this right-of-way, and there was a sign put up that this right-of-way was to be built. I've never seen anything about it, but we did talk about it, but I don't know what the story is with that.
So is that
It's like a 12-foot wide easement that's supposed to come through, and this is before the solar farm and all that, long before.
They probably were talking about the Metacom and Greenway.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, sure.
That is it, yes.
Okay.
But no work is going on about.
No, we're about ready to start working on the design for it, so it goes from the ball field. I'm trying to think.
In Walpole.
Russo,
yeah.
Russo, and then makes its way through Norfolk to Rentham, and then down. Then eventually we'll continue down to, continue on the rail corridor down, and then eventually
all
to
connect.
Rhode Island. So.
And when I was in Milford, I actually did railroad work where we took abandoned railroads and created, bikeways through there in town in Milford, which is still there right by the Cedar Swamp Dam. It's really nice. It's became the big bikeway now. But that was 17, 15, 32, about 40 years ago. That's a long time ago. And we did economic development grants. We did a lot of things in the town of Milford. They were really struggling. That was long before the 10%, they had more than 10% subsidized housing in that town. So they were the first town to fulfill their requirement right away. And that prompted 40B, and hey, we did it, and we're getting killed. We're reaping some of the, not the benefits, but the pitfalls of it that other towns had a share in their fair share.
Back that far, they were actually backfilling wetlands as well.
Oh, they did a lot of
I
filling
know.
of wetlands.
Talking the 80s, sure.
And I play in a poker
much aware
group,
of
so
it.
I also know about the guy on at the end of That's brought in 400 loads of fill. Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm unfamiliar with it at this juncture. I clearly
No,
know
we
who you're
just can't really
speaking
discuss
of, but
that.
that's a different
Well, I know
meeting.
because
No,
my
it's a different
my
meeting.
buddies back up to his lot, I mean, or the back, they live on Beaverbrook,
Right.
so it's their back.
Sure.
But I used to ride there. When all that was woods, I'd ride my mountain bike through there, and I'd ride through the barn and with the last owners that were there, or 2 owners ago, the woman and the man that lived there. And I haven't been there since, but I understand, but he talked about it, and I know it's a problem, and I know that there's something going on with it.
Correct.
Either the state is getting involved or someone, but
Well, we should just move on from that subject.
oh, good. Okay. Any other questions?
Did you mention grant writing? Do you have experience with writing grants, or just you do?
Yeah. I don't like it. But I did it. I did what I had to do. I did what I was required to do, but yes, I was involved. We didn't have consultants back then. We had a town engineer. He was a great town engineer for many years, John Parmentier. And we would write our own grants. We had an EDA grant that I got a substantial amount of money. We did takings of land to create a road right off of Route 109 as you come off of 495. That was a tough one. But that was yeah, we did do that, yes.
I don't think
Small
that's
cities
required.
grants, EDA grants, zoning stuff, you name it. Helping with orders, conditions with the Conservation Commission, but I mostly work for the planning board.
Yeah, great.
Excellent. Well, if there aren't any other questions between Commission and Martin, we can have the next one coming up shortly.
All right, if I'm all set,
Yeah.
I'll
Thank you.
wait to hear from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
As you can see, I'm pretty candid.
No,
so
as I say,
I hope that was fine,
No, indeed.
Yes.
because, okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, guys.
Have a great evening now.
Wait for Jeffrey.
We have 8 minutes.
Yeah. Need a little comfort break?
I was thinking, I want to run this song past you guys I've been working on lately.
You're not going to sing, are you?
No, I'm just being
So,
silly.
community audition number 6,
There you go.
Adam Zucker.
I'll second that.
Yeah. That sounds good. Good job.
I didn't hear it.
He's saying
That's
far,
why it
far away.
sounded good.
Yeah. Far, far away, is that the song?
I'm eating my dinner, that's why I keep going black on you guys. If
Okay.
you're wondering. You didn't notice? Nobody noticed?
Oh, I
I
noticed,
did, but I've gone black.
but I was covering for you.
It wasn't for dinner purposes, but moving on.
Surely.
Good evening.
Good evening. Jeff Valentine, I'm here for a 7:30.
Yeah, perfect, on time. So, have you come up, sit down at the... So the mic is for the audience at home.
Okay.
I don't know if you told your family you were coming tonight to be live, if they want to watch it, but
Yeah, they'd be super thrilled to watch a commission meeting, but thanks for having me.
yeah.
And it's recorded, and Adam back there, Andrew, back there, records them, they're safe, so your kids can watch them later on.
Okay. They'll say they knew me when, right?
We just have Adam Zucker on Zoom, but the rest, obviously the rest of the commissioners are here.
Okay.
So, as I said before, just
Do we
Go
have,
ahead.
do we have to wait till 7:30 because we have it in the meeting at 7:30?
No,
Can
no,
we
not for
start?
this. No, you can get started.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. no. Just wanted to more or less space them out so there was time. not-
okay.
Yeah, so you can,
Okay.
so I mean, kind of, why you're interested, right?
Sure,
Start
yeah.
there and then.
Okay, yeah, so I'm interested in, I have been interested over the last few, I've been living in Norfolk since 2018, so we're coming up on 8 years. And I have been thinking about ways to serve the community. At my job, I serve on our Green Team Committee, which is a team that thinks about conservation issues and sustainability at the Prudential Tower, which is the office building I work in. And that's been really satisfying. And I thought, okay, maybe I can take some of that mindset and serve the community. Now, I will also say that I did see the ad in the local newspaper and thought, hey, that looks like something that would be interesting for me. So that's what initially drove me to look into it. My daughter's also very much a nature person. She loves animals, and that has helped to sort of push me to be more mindful about how we approach things like this, not only in the community, but just in the world at large. So for me, it seems like a worthwhile effort. And so that's kind of what initially drove me to it. I've been working in the legal field. I'm a law librarian by profession. I've been working in that field for a couple of decades, so have some familiarity with how complicated rules and regulations, laws, and things like that can be. And I think that is a skill set that would be helpful for me, even though I don't have any scientific background in ecology or environmental sciences or anything like that. So I thought that would be another benefit for me. Though I know I would have a lot to learn if I did end up serving on the commission.
So we do, like actually I have it here, like keep with me, is the our Town of Norfolk wetland guidelines, so regulation. So I refer to it every once in a while, just kind of refresh myself with what's going on, but it does a very good job of explaining the rules in a layman's term so that you could understand exactly what they're talking about in each of the regulations and what they're protecting, what the purpose of the meeting is, of each of the regulations and parts of it. There's also state ones that are a little bit different depending on the project. As we get into floodplains and replacement, or how much percent of land is permeable and non-permeable at a riverfront, but you'll learn those as you go along. The main thing is, and told the other applicants, there's 7 members normally. Of those, a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk. Everyone has the same say in what we do when we come to vote. So the chairman, vice chairman, or the clerk are not going to say, this is how you need to vote. We all have an equal say as to what goes on and why. So if there's something that you don't quite agree with or you think needs more clarification, that's why we're all here. And that's why there's 7 members and not 1. Even when you start, we've all asked, like, why are we doing that? Or, you're putting that this close, but, where do we, make exceptions? Can we make an exception? And, along with it, we usually have an agent, but right now we're in between agents. But we also have the ability to have outside companies come in and they'll do what's called like a peer review, or they'll fill out the paperwork, or they'll advise us on a project. So it's not going to be meeting laws, it has to be recorded.
Got it.
So that's why. So if you had a question for me, you'd pretty much have to go to Richard. Richard would ask me the question, I would answer, and he would answer you back.
Okay.
And that way we know that, because in all fairness, it's not fair to someone coming in front of us that we've all met beforehand and made a decision.
Yeah,
That's not fair.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, so that's where the unethical part can appear. So we don't want, that's why we abide by the rules.
Yeah. Okay.
I
That
hope that answers some of,
Part of the Information Act as well. Town emails, as you know, you say you have a law background or somewhat legal, librarian, I believe you said. Yeah, it's part of the Information Act. Any
Right.
communication on town websites it's, open for anybody, as you know, can go to the town and, request the minutes, request and you can go on YouTube and watch
Right,
yourself
right.
as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
but yeah, it's all pretty above board. as
Well, that's
they say.
good. That's a good thing.
Oh,
Yes.
Glad to hear that. But I expected that, and I appreciate that it is so clearly above board, and that means that everyone is impartial as issues come to the commission. I presume everyone is hearing things for the first time and getting that information, or do you get information beforehand too to help inform you as you approach an issue?
Yeah, so the agent or Elaine or myself through the shared drive through Google, the applications will come in and plans will be there, correspondence, whatever that comes ahead of time before the meeting, you can review them in advance.
Okay.
So they're there, actually there for everyone. And then
And does the agent provide
recommendations.
a recommendation on whether this is the way to go, or does
Yeah, the agent does provide recommendations,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
But only recommendations.
Right.
They do not have a
the
vote.
decision is with the
Right,
commission?
within the
Yeah,
board.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, like, she'll make a recommendation, we could put up markers at the 50-foot. And then we may say, we think because of the vast area and it's flat, we would rather have a fence. And so that becomes a discussion. So it's not, including the agent or a peer review, it's not, that's what said and that's what we need to vote for. It's more of an open, and, if you're looking at, we're doing a property and, there's either a sock or a silt fence, and, you have a question like, why don't we have a sock on this? Or why do we have just a silt fence, or vice versa?
Can I ask what a sock is?
What's that?
The sock? Is that
Sill sock?
It's like a
Hay
tube.
in a
yeah.
nylon bag. It's meant to prevent any
Yeah.
residue from ending up in the wetlands.
So that is more of like an under 6-7 month project, use a silt sock. And then they use a silt fence to prevent heavier materials. It's like if you see like the black plastic staked into the ground around like a site, that's what that's for. And then the socks are as a preventative, and then, we could make them, change them after a time, and, then the agent would go out and inspect them or peer review. So there's a lot that goes on with those. But those are, some of the things, if you were reading, like, say, the recommendations that we'd get would have silt sock. So when I started, I looked up a lot of stuff. And even now with some of our bigger projects coming up, if there's a possible contaminant, or we're doing a property, we've had several that are older, then I look up, hey, this type of manufacturing or this type of operation, what were the typical chemicals used in the 1920s or 1930s? And now with AI, it all comes up. So
Yeah.
it gives you, you can do your own research in the background, so you have a better understanding of what's going on, and, you're more than able to, when the applicant comes up and say, hey, I read about this, can you speak to this for us? And then that might be something we all say, we don't know, we'd like you to speak to that.
Right.
So it's not any one of us coming up with all the answers. We do it as a group, and each of us have like different backgrounds, so it really does aid in what everybody's looking at in different kind of a perspective.
And it's a variety of things that come before the commission, so it's just a little bit, nice in terms of, someone might want to put a deck on their house, so they're going to put the footings in, and they need to come in and do an RDA, request for determination of applicability. So you got this scale where somebody might be doing a deck and they're coming in, or somebody's taking down a tree, all the way up to some commercial project or residential development. So there's
It's always different.
It's always different,
range.
yeah, you know, where,
It's typically a construction project of some sort that you're seeing.
Not
or-
always, no.
yeah.
Again,
can even
it's
be-
preservation, it's projects through the town, the open spaces.
Yeah.
So, you know, primarily, it all depends, but that's kind of what makes it interesting. It's always different,
Yeah,
so.
right.
But yeah, just to your point, silk socks come in two sizes, 6 and 10s. And, the information is out there.
Okay.
So if indeed you were not able to inquire, Elaine is a tremendous source of information and source of, if she doesn't know where to send you,
Okay.
but to self-educate somewhat.
Good, that's good.
So like when we have, like they'll be doing either like a large stone project, Paul is usually the guy because he's very familiar with it. And so he's watching to see what they say and then calls them out and says, well, my experience, how can you explain this? Or,
Right.
you know, they're doing a deck with a 12-foot span and they're only saying they need 1 footing. And we're like, well, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
then we got to make a decision. But we've also had small projects where somebody wanted to put in like a canopy, but they were in the riverfront and used 100% of their
Yeah.
area already.
Right.
And they're not allowed to. So we just work with them. Like, this is what we'll do. We ended up having them, they put in 2 4-inch square cylindrical posts in. And they had to have gravel, they couldn't tar it, and it couldn't have sides. It could just have a top. Because all they wanted to do was either their boat or their camper, get it out from underneath the pine trees. So we worked with them, because it's over the edge, but it's over the edge by 4 inches by 4 inches and 4 inches by 4 inches. That's it on a large property. So some of those things, we say, okay. Now, if they came and they said, we want to build a 2-car garage, then that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know, then we have to say no.
Yeah.
But, so those are the things, we work with, and, sometimes it's this gray areas, and, it depends on a lot of factors. So,
It is.
some, soil factors and terrain and the neighborhood and where, wells can be and where septic can be, and, sometimes it makes it tough for someone to try to put in a septic because it has to be so many feet from another septic and so many feet from a well, and then you're trying to fit the house on there, and so, sometimes we have to give them some bad news.
Right.
But that's, we try to work with them the best, the best that we can.
Lot of variables that come into
Yeah, it
play,
sounds like it.
even such as, turtles nest there, okay? Migratory birds nest there. These are, so again, it's a copulation of, again, fish and wildlife, building, preservation, and maintenance on same. That's the other thing. Some of our lakes currently here in Norfolk have very invasive weeds that need to be treated regularly. Okay, that has to be done annually and has to be funded. So there's a little bit more to it than just, construction.
Sure, okay, sounds like it, yeah. For all these things, I presume, these are public meetings, and anyone can come. Are people who might be affected by it notified in some way by the town before the meeting, or?
Yeah, there's an abutter notification,
Always
The-
300 feet.
100 feet.
Is it?
It's
Yeah.
100, but
Okay.
the,
Things have changed a little bit. It was 300 feet when you're on the water,
okay.
on the ocean, down Cape,
Oh, interesting, okay.
But
Yeah, they are notified. It's also put in the Sun Chronicle as
on
well.
Facebook as well, the community page is pretty good about
Yeah, people
source of
share it.
information.
Yeah,
Those pages can be interesting.
they can be.
They can be a lot.
My wife will tell me that, oh, you should see this
But
particular board.
Some of the other things that you may do is there's, like some big projects may be coming up. We had a meeting, we had the the PIP meeting for, Adam and I were on, and I think maybe Richard for Southwood Hospital, and then they came in front of the select board and watched that. So it's a matter of, how much information you want to get and how much time, but those all help with when they do come in, that we're well-informed. And,
Well, we talked about it on the phone too, or not phone, but we did Zoom, but also the members are a resource to you too. Like,
Right.
it's kind of a team, environment. They're going to help too. It's not.
Sure.
You can
No,
learn
it's-
from them as well. It's not just.
we've all been new, and we all ask a ton of
Yeah.
questions, and it's never been, don't worry about that, just vote this way, because it's never, I started and it was like that a lot, 9 years ago, wasn't it? 8, 9?
Yeah, it
We
was,
started
yeah.
about the same time.
Yeah.
And that was my first vote. You got to vote this way. And then 3 months later, David, who just stepped down, and I just said, that's not right. We should not have voted that way. And then it created a big issue in the commission, but in the end, we did what was right. We stuck up, and then from then on, it's been, I've watched other commissions in other towns, and sometimes the commissioners will give their view of a personal view of how they feel. Well, this isn't what this is about. It's, like I told the last applicant, we had this big meeting, and it was like 50, 60 people on Zoom, and one woman got really angry and said some things, called the lawyer a money-grubbing environmental killer. And I said, look, he has as much right to build as you have a much right to say no, but it's our job just to analyze the data and follow the regulations. That's it. So we can't say, we're going to stand here and block every single thing that's going to come in front of us, because we want to, we just want to keep it the way it is right now.
Yeah.
That's not our position. That's not what we do.
There are actually other sources such that beyond us, DEP, Fish and Wildlife, triple redundancy, that mines that's, in place for a reason. If indeed, we would overlook something, then it would go before Department of Environmental Protection
Right.
or, Fish and Wildlife. So there are other checks
Yeah,
in place,
that makes
checks and
sense.
balances.
Right, that makes
Sure.
sense.
Oh, we've even gone to DEP
Yeah.
with questions that we've had
Yeah.
and say, hey, we think this should be a DEP project because it falls under your guys. So,
Yeah, they have what they call circuit riders that are available,
Okay.
to help with commissions and commission members too.
Okay.
Granted, it's, a big area, it's part of the Worcester district, but nevertheless, but they are available. In fact, I communicated with one last week on a project which we're not going to talk about, but anyway.
yeah.
So,
So that's one thing you'll say, like, we can mention the project, but we cannot discuss any of the finer points of the project unless it's actually in the meeting and we're talking about it.
Okay.
Because then the applicant is at an unfair advantage because we violated the meeting laws because we're talking about their project without them here.
Right.
And the abutters and anybody that has any interest in the project.
Makes sense.
Has to
But
be
there's-
listed on the agenda page.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's good is, Elaine's helped me when I've asked for, like, for example, I've asked for a particular property. Can you pull, like, the last 3 or 4 meetings that this was in? And she gave me, the last few meetings that we had with this, and some were a long time ago, some were close by, but I was able to kind of get an idea of what's been going on. But, you're more than welcome to that if that's something, you're interested in.
yeah.
Plus, we have, MACC has
Right.
classes
Did talk
that you
about
can
that, right.
take.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you did mention that, which is,
Yeah.
that would be helpful, I think, for sure. So,
Yeah.
I know it is a lot harder because you're coming from not an environmental background.
Right.
Or construction, so those two kind of, you get a lot of lingo that way and understand a lot.
Yep.
So when you haven't, it's a little bit harder, but it's not.
We also will occasionally do site visits, which could be probably really helpful for you, because you can see what is being talked about. And,
okay. Yeah, that would, you actually see it in action, see what the specifics are, and instead of just looking at having it written down. No, that would be helpful too, I think, for sure.
Yeah, because I've done, like I have to let Richard know, and Richard would let the landowner know that a member wants to come out, look at the property, and to get a better feel for it. Because sometimes it's hard to tell, like, especially on like River Road.
Yeah.
Went out,
Yeah.
like when I first started, brought my oldest son out, took pictures, and he's looking around, and, we're going over the property, and he's like, well, why don't they just build the house further away from the river then? And I said, okay, that's actually true. But it was really funny because that was what, we were hedging towards, like, you can't build it close. He just looks at the house and said, if they're going to tear it down, why don't you just build it further back?
And some interesting ones, well, one's already built, but there's another one coming on River Road that's going to be on stilts, so.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because it overflows the banks on a regular basis.
Yeah, wow.
So it's,
One other option as far as site visits is always Google Earth.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you were not able to, but just a quick question regarding your scheduling, you would not suspect that at this point there would be any scheduling back logs on your end as far as your children or any of that?
As far as, my understanding.
Scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, my understanding is this commission meets on Wednesdays typically.
That's correct, the first Wednesday of the month.
So I'm also a musician, and I play in a couple of ensembles locally, a couple community ensembles. And throughout the year, I typically have Monday and Tuesday evening commitments. So those are tougher, but I can move them if needed. It's not like I have to be at every single one. But as a rule, I'm typically engaged.
Wednesday is a good day.
Wednesday's a great day for me, yeah. And my work schedule at this point, I'm typically in the office 3 days a week, which means during the week I'll be working from home 2 days. I can adjust that as needed. So, for instance, if there was a site visit or something like that, I would probably be able to make some adjustments. But I do work at a pretty busy law firm, and my schedule can get hairy at times at work.
Of course.
But that's during...
You do have some flexibility. In
Yeah, I do. Yes, exactly. So, and I think our firm is very pro-community service, so I think that would also be in my favor there to make those kinds of changes if needed.
Yeah, because, when some of the bigger projects have come up, we've had to go into executive session, which is basically it's just us. And then after the project, the meeting notes get released after. But it's just how we group on the bylaws when we have to go into executive session. There's a lot that goes into it. Just nothing, we just don't arbitrarily come up and say, we're going to do this. It's, so that
doesn't happen very often because there's specific criteria to go into that.
Sure.
But it can happen.
Okay.
But we would vote as a group and say, all right, if you can't do Monday or Tuesday, and Val's the same way, we're like, okay, what day works for everyone, and try to keep it on a Wednesday. And most of us, as long as because it's like Rich said, we can't schedule anything less than 48 hours, so that would be like the dire closest thing that would ever happen in an emergency.
Right.
So the only time we've had others is we had the open space meeting
Yeah.
and like this. So other than that, in the last few years, we haven't, it's been once a month for the most part.
So you will, that's good. So there will be a little bit more work in terms of, so Peter Kokinda is the rep to the Open Space Steering Committee, but ultimately that planning process will come back to the commission, so there will be a little bit extra work that's not as typical in terms of planning-wise that you'll be involved with. All the commissioners will, because it's a plan in the end that you'll have to vote on as a body to approve. That's part of the process.
Okay.
Which then goes to, goes to the Department of, Conservation and Recreation.
Okay.
They review that plan as well, and they will need to approve it as well. That plan in place allows grant opportunities for the town. So for this coming year, there'll be a little bit more work on that side, but,
Okay.
and then there'll be things related to that too, but,
Okay.
so.
No, that would be a good thing is, we sent out the survey and the recreation book. So,
Actually,
Did you get
I
yours?
did take the
All
survey.
right, excellent, good,
I
good.
did, I did.
I'll be looking for it.
so I was going to say, if you hadn't, that'd be a good opportunity to kind of see what the open space plan
Yeah.
is about.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it gives you a good idea of,
Well, I learned a whole lot of things about the various open space facilities in the town that I didn't know about. I live near Stony Brook. That was one that I was very familiar with, but I didn't know the others. So quite a few of them anyway. So
I will say I did see some of the results coming in. You'll have a lot of work ahead of you of some of the things that people would like to see done, which we kind of already knew, but clearly the, signage and then people to know where these spaces are is definitely on the to-do list.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was definitely a,
Yeah, there's a ton of places to explore. I mean,
Yeah, there are some
I've got a
great
10-year-old daughter, and she would, we'd love to check out some of these places.
Yeah.
so it's kind of, this whole thing is, you have people that want to keep Norfolk the way it is without change.
Right.
You have some people that want to improve some of our open space, the amount that we own, some that want to use some of the, like trails and trail systems. And you have the people that want to increase the amount of like pure recreation, and then some that want to increase baseball. And sometimes it kind of ebbs by age. You get younger kids, you need more ball space. You get older, you want to walk on a trail that's marked and not full of branches. And then when you're wheelchair looking out the window, you want to see nice trees. So,
oh, there you go, you summed it up.
Looking at me when
That's
it
why you
says
need a
that.
lot of perspective,
Did you see me
though. That
limping
makes
in? I got
Whole
a
life
bad
flashed
hip and a
before my
bad
eyes.
leg. It's
You
no
just
lie.
summed up the
So-
circle of life.
It's the beginning of the movie Up, right? That's
so
Similar.
our job would be, as Rich has said, kind of filter through all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And on the same hand, be mindful of, like, we could get a grant to build, say we got a grant to build 6 ball fields. Well, how are we going to maintain them? Because we don't want to build something that then we can't maintain, because somebody's got to mow the field, somebody's got to take care of the fields. So it's like certain things that, we have trails that people can get to. And, we got a lot of that.
Adam,
Yes, I just wanted to add, one of the things we've been teetering on is the failure to have a quorum. And so, things come up in life and you have to miss meetings. But you also have to, if you can, a little conscientiousness, because you can go back and watch the entire meeting, and then you can sign to confirm that legally you've watched the meeting. And the importance of that is that down the road, then, should the issue come up again, you could vote and we could still have a quorum. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, following up and trying to keep yourself in the stream with meetings you have to miss is very helpful
Yeah, that
for
makes
us
sense.
for a lot of reasons.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. That sounds, that's a good thing to know, that's something available.
yeah. And so behind the scenes, Elaine is tracking attendance on projects too,
Sure.
so,
Okay.
so to keep,
Yeah,
make sure you're on.
No,
There's only a
rigidly.
percentage. Yeah, there's a percentage of them that you have to
on point.
attend
Yes, sir.
in person. So, and then, or
Well, it can
by
be Zoom,
and-
it can be remote, but
Yeah.
you can't miss, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
right.
just, we gotta watch it, because we're gonna make sure we have a quorum on a vote.
What is the
on a
quorum with the 7?
Four.
4 out of 7, or,
Yes, 4.
Okay.
Makes it, it's a big, it's actually the biggest that we have. It's the select board 3, planning board 5,
Right.
ZBA's 5, although they have associate members, but.
Sexiest.
Okay.
Another musician heard from.
So, I guess on that note, if there is any other-
Questions for us beyond the obvious?
I don't think so. I mean, we had the prior meeting, Zoom meeting. I asked a bunch of questions there. You guys were helpful enough to answer clearly. So I feel like I'm interested in serving, and I think this would be a good use of my time.
Excellent.
So if it works out, great. I'd be happy to serve. So,
It's a great
Awesome.
thing.
all right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
for coming. You have a great
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
I couldn't help it.
There's always one in every crowd.
Yeah, huh?
Hi, Conrad? Oh, come on up.
Come on in.
Can you have a seat right over here?
Well, no, you can sit over here. At that.
Okay.
Well, you sit in the big chair.
where you're motioning.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, the mic is for the viewers at home.
Okay.
The mic is not really for folks in the room, although we do have one member on Zoom, so we'll be participating, Adam.
I don't know.
So go ahead, tell, kind of as a you have to repeat what you said when we chatted on Zoom, but basically for the rest of the commissioners, why you're interested and.
Yeah. I mean, at a pretty high level, there's just a lot going on in the world. And I really want to get involved in my local community and try to do what I can to protect the environment. And this seems like a commission kind of aligned with that goal. So, I'm not looking to stand in the way of any projects, but really just make sure that they align with what we're looking for and preserving the town's, health and well-being, because it goes, really there's a lot of things for the town's health, and that's like an economic health. There's also just, I think this town has a lot of valuable resources in terms of its hiking trails and its like marshlands. I enjoy the area here and being able to like kayak down the Charles River from just near my house to hiking up and down our trails. So yeah, this is kind of my first permanent residence in Massachusetts. So I've been living in apartments throughout Newton, just trying to, save money to buy a house. And now I've kind of accomplished that. And since I think I'm going to be here for a while, I was interested in getting involved with kind of our town. And I saw this as a way to do that. So.
How long have you been in Norfolk?
Just a year. So I moved December 10th, 2024. And before that, I was in Newton for, I want to say around 2.5 years, across 2 different apartments. Yeah.
Okay, just a quick question. Just perusing your resume really doesn't say a lot. What, if any, experience have you in wetlands or any of that? And again, I'm just trying to correlate. You say you've been a resident here in Norfolk for a year. Mm-hmm. Congratulations on a new home. I mean, that's outstanding for a young man such as yourself to own a home these days. So that's great. As far as experience, what prior experience, if any, have you had?
Yeah, so I'll be clear, I don't have any experience related to wetlands. I have a lot of interest in the subject, really not wetlands specifically, but like at a higher level, just our environment,
Sure.
climate, nature, all of those things. So I'm more than willing to learn, but I understand that puts me at a disadvantage.
No, it's not a disadvantage or an advantage. The reason why we're 7 individuals is because of our individual backgrounds. as a board for someone's different. Provided she's a good girlfriend, I'm assuming.
It was worth the move. Yeah.
There you
It was
go.
worth the move.
I'll take your word.
So I don't know if you heard us from before, but we've all started new. Some of us have, a peer review or somebody that we'd have contract in to look over the project for us. But a lot of times, some of us, I have a background in soils hydrology and forestry, so those things come easier to me. And then Paul has construction. Val's great in ecology, and he has a great feel for trail systems and horses for years. So he has that type of a background. So Adam's been great with his trail systems.
What
and
is his
those
background?
trails.
No, just kidding.
He's our resident hippie.
I had it scrubbed from the internet.
So we all have a little bit different background, but when we're looking at plans, like I showed somebody, we have like this, and I read it every once in a while, and it's just our regulations for the town of Norfolk for the wetlands. So it's written very well, so that all the different terminology is explained in it, and even as they lay it out, it's done pretty well in layman's terms of explaining what we do. But as you go along, we expect that you'll ask questions, and don't feel that you should vote yes on something and you're really not sure. Always say, I'm not really sure about this. You may see something we missed. Somebody caught on one of the projects, their line was going at 146 feet above sea level and went to like 125, and we're like, well, what is this? And then he's like, oh, I'm just gonna build a 20-foot wall here. And it's like, well, wait a minute, because it made it look like it was a continuous thing. And then one of us caught it. So it's, we're all here with different backgrounds, but, it's not, like a position that we expect you to have all this background and training in. It's more of,
Right, it's not necessary.
there's 7 equal votes. I would never say you need to vote this way, because, that's the way it should be. It would be, if ever I felt, I'd say my opinion and say, but you need to all have your own opinion of whatever you think. And then, there's times where we're not at odds, but we're trying to see the project from different views. Like somebody might be a little more lenient, and somebody might be, like I may say, yeah, but in the past, if we allow this, then what about the past ones? What about the future ones? He might be a nice guy, but, we can't let that, kind of cloud what we're doing. So, so we make exceptions once in a while, or small things, which makes sense, like the last applicant town we had in the riverfront, where you live, you have percent of permeable ground that you have to have. And so if you went to build an addition, you have to have so much permeable ground. So if you built a 10 by 10 addition, you might have to take out a 10 by 10 garage in order to do it. So, but they were out of space, and they needed to put in a carport just to cover, it was either a boat or a camper or something. And so what we said was, you have to put down the particular type of gravel so that it's permeable. You can build 2 4-by-4-inch posts, that's what they're going to put in the ground, no sides, and you can use that. So it was a little bit over what they're supposed to have, but it wasn't a lot, and it was being reasonable for the
Within
people.
the guidelines.
Yeah. So it's not like they said they want to build a garage and they have no space. It's a different thing. So it's, other times we've said no to people because their only place they could put a well is 10 feet into the wetlands, and like, you can't put it there. So I hope that kind of, I don't want you to be like, come in and be overwhelmed like this is,
Yeah, I wasn't sure what kind of background is expected or if there's like a level of preparation to come here.
It's always entry level, and honestly, the diversity makes for the best, I think, and especially for the board being from different backgrounds, as, Jim was saying, a different perspective on the same take. Somebody may miss it, and then, a younger man such as yourself with a keen eye pick up on it. Oh, yeah, I saw that from across the room. Well,
Not too keen.
well, wait till you get my age on that. All right, but having said that, so yeah, there really is no initial anticipation, at least I don't have one. Myself, other than, as Jim had mentioned, I, currently own, water here in Norfolk, and have in the past multitude of different waterfront and oceanfront properties. So having dealt with other conservation, Plymouth for one, and association boards, having previous experience did not help or hurt me in this particular case, because each town does it a little different, and each particular case that comes before the board in of itself is different. So, there's certain guidelines, sure, but there's information out on the web if you have the opportunity to self-educate. If something were to come up, that you can refresh yourself, you can, expand your horizons, as they say. So, even at my age, I'm learning every day. So.
No, we get, about 2 weeks out for the meeting, we get a listing like this of what's going to happen during the meeting for the minutes. Not the minutes, but the agenda for the meeting.
Is this a recurring meeting or a meeting specific to a project?
It would be
Meetings coming up. Every
coming
month
up,
we have a
and
meeting.
all
We
the-
get the information prior.
And Elaine will put in, any documents and stuff like that. And there may be words in there that you don't understand, like a vernal pool, what is that? And then, so when you start, you just look those things up, and you get an idea of what they're talking about. And so when they're in here, and, they start talking about them, you have a little bit better understanding. And then, like right now, we're in between agents, and we've got that whole process going on, but we have other companies that will come in their place, and they'll go to the homeowner's place, or the applicants, and do a review. And they'll come in and they'll say, this is what we found, and then we'll have questions, and then, so it's never been, even when we've had questions, we've gone to the DEP and said, hey, we think this is your jurisdiction, because their jurisdiction is a little bit different. And so we've done that. Adam?
I was going to say, nobody should be telling you how to vote, either other board members or the agent or anybody. That's the point, is you have that free will decision based on the information you get. But if you need any advising, ideally we would have an agent right now, because Caitlin was awesome. But you can certainly talk to somebody. Now, we can't discuss matters concerning subjects that are relevant to the board, but if you're like, what does this mean? What are they talking about? Somebody can explain that. We can, we'll be glad to take the time with you.
I took a look at the website earlier, I think at like open proposals or something, and one of them was like a request to cut down some trees. And it took me a long time to be able to understand, like, oh, okay, so these are the trees that they're asking to cut down. Like, it's surprisingly difficult to read some of those diagrams.
Well,
So,
probably would have been an RDA you're referring to for cutting down trees. But yeah, terminology, it's just simply you're not used to it, but that's part of it. And, like as I say, every day you learn a little something new.
Well, even to that point, so some plans are well done and they're easy to follow and read, and you'll find that,
Others
as
are
well
not.
and others are not. And then there's some that have so much information, even if you're really good at it, it's still kind of hard sometimes. So don't feel like, all right, well, that's not unusual that those things happen like that, to try to figure it out. And oftentimes the commission will be like, well, they got to revise plans because it's not clear what they're trying to do. So that's all part of the permitting process when it comes to projects.
So the things like preventative measures, like some of the preventative fencing that we may put up to prevent soil movement, not allowing them to store materials on site because it's so compact, grading issues, whether they tar a driveway or it's gravel, and there's all these different things that go on and orders that, we'll have them put in. Those you'll learn over time, and the easiest thing is kind of watch a few meetings, and you get an idea of, especially if you start at one point, you can kind of follow the projects as they go along and see how we said, hey, you're, those particular type of things. Where are you storing the materials?
Yeah.
We need to we've dealt with a person before, and they haven't followed our guidelines on the previous project, so they're forced into having, they have to let us know. We have a pre-construction meeting, and then they can start. If they're in violation, then they get a cease and desist order, cease and desist. So if you go back, I'm not saying you watch 2 years of, but if you went back like a year and then just started watching, you could see, all right, this one's being continued because they're not ready. And then then they're ready. And then they find out that, it got continued because the previous meeting, we had all these questions. And, sometimes it's things like serious that, where's your 50-foot markers missing? Your 100-foot markers missing? You're going at 245 feet elevation, then it's 220, then it's 250. Is there a depression there, or no, we messed up? Or we had one where they were by the river, and instead of putting, they mixed up the floodplain elevation versus the actual elevation, and then one, I don't know how they do it, they had part of the house in the water. They had to have them redo the plan. So there's all those type of things that go on. But
Yeah, even just like looking through like old videos and stuff, you can see like what kind of questions people were asking, to kind of just get to know like what the thought process is and stuff like that.
and beyond just the thought process, the process in general of how it starts.
From start to finish. And
Well, even just, erosion mitigation, even vegetation, replacement vegetation. There's several different aspects that kind of come under the one title of conservation. And, with a construction, simply if somebody wants to build a home, say, they have to disturb some soil, but where they're within the 100-foot buffer, there's no work to be done within a 50-foot buffer, okay? So, and then again, erosion control needs to be in place. As Jim was saying, no material to be stored. There's certain, requirements that have to take precedence over, but for the most part, what I found to be, for the most part, people are amenable to try and do the right thing. They may not be happy about being postponed initially, but they kind of come into the fold that it's for the right reasons. If they're not able to get a clean bill of health the first meeting, if their plans need to be redone because it's missing something or clarification is required, these are some things that could postpone a project for someone, but we try and do our best to work within the parameters.
Well, we work with people. I mean, we've got
Sure.
a couple of people that have come in front of us and said, I've purchased this property. I want to do this. What are your thoughts? What do you think? And it's, we'll say, well, these are our concerns. You've worked with us. This is what we would like to do. So then he can go back to the landowner and say, we're going to have to do this much work, this much mediation, this, if you're going to build a house, we need to protect the soil. This stone wall is going to cost you this much money, where you can have your entrance and exit and the whole construction process. So we don't say you don't have a plan, so you can't come here. No, we're more than willing to work with anybody that comes in and say, this is what we'll do for you and all of that. So.
Do you all go on site to make sure they're following like the agreed plan?
Well, that's what the agent does, site visits, follow-ups, Google Earth.
Yeah, what we do sometimes we'll make
Sure.
site visits.
That's
So
correct.
usually when we do that, we'll come up with a plan of like when we all or most of us can make it, we'll go with the agent and then like see if there's any issues or see if things are coming in nicely.
So what would happen as a precursor is we can, but we shouldn't. The proper way to do it is to talk to Richard. Richard would, or the agent would contact the landowner and say, do you mind if 3 of my members come to your property on Saturday at 1 o'clock? And they may email us and say, this is what we're going to do if you want to come. And so, because sometimes it's easier to see the property in person. But what we can't do, what we shouldn't do is just start showing up and walking on somebody's property and say, I'm here from the commission.
No, not unless you want to be met at gunpoint. I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah.
I got a big dog, and, I feed him just enough, so be advised, just enough.
So it's, it's kind of a fine line whether we have a right to or not, but we want to come off as we want to work with people. So we're not out there looking like, kind of look behind their back. If there's going to be a site visit, they know we're coming.
Yeah.
And if they know, so if, it would be different if, we had a meeting and said, hey, on this property X, we can't start working until, May, you have a cease and desist, and you drive by and they got bulldozers and you want to take a picture and send it to Rich, that's okay. Don't go up and tell the bulldozer to get off, the guy to get off his bulldozer. But you contact Rich and let him know, hey, this is what's going on. So I had the same similar situation.
Yeah, this is a volunteer board. They're not paying you enough to take your life in your hands.
No.
Well, we represent the people of Norfolk too, and, we don't want to be confrontational with them. We have nothing over them. We are them.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to be confrontational that way.
Yeah.
And if they're coming before our board, they're the ones with an emotional investment.
Attachment, yeah.
So we can't respond with their emotion. We have to keep it civil because, it doesn't happen much, but they're a bit heated up about issues. They come before us. I would like to say that as a new member of the town, one thing the town seems like
Losing you there,
We lost you there
sunshine.
for a minute. Some
Hello.
great words.
great way to meet
I don't think he
people in town and learn about the history.
can hear us.
And this board, you learn about the different businesses that we've had. It's great to know.
It's a great little town. You'll be happy, huh?
Already just the first conversation we had, I felt like I was learning about the town. So,
Excellent.
yeah, it was very nice.
You had some great words of wisdom. We didn't get all of it. You kind of came in and out, Adam, but
That might be for the best.
We got the gist.
No,
We got the important parts.
getting plugged into the town is a great way to get to know people. And that's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yep.
Yeah, part of the reason for my asking about the site visit wasn't to like encroach on people, but just when I was
Educational.
when I was looking at that, proposal or like request to be able to cut down the trees, I was like, it's so hard to like visualize this request just from this piece of paper. And then part of it's also like, I haven't reviewed the wetland guidelines or whatever you were showing, like the laws about it. So it might be a lot more clear if you're aware of those and it's just like, kind of like true, false, does this meet the requirement? But just from like trying to form my own opinion, I was looking at that and I was like, I wish I could see what it actually would, the change it would make to this
And then
area.
it gets more complicated because it's riverfront, which is a whole nother thing. So, yeah.
Conrad, people usually, the agent usually takes pictures too
Correct.
for you to look at.
Okay.
It would post on the screen behind you.
Right.
So you could look at them.
visual.
And have a conversation.
Thank you.
At the meetings, when they come before the meetings, a conservation agent has to go out and approve or, disapprove, depending on. And they're, for the most part, they are pretty good about taking, pertinent photographs so that, us laymen sitting back here can visualize, as you were saying, to put it in a perspective on what they're looking to do.
Okay.
And you always can, once we have an agent, which we'll be getting
We're in the-
in a few months,
Sure. Process of, sure.
so you could certainly, from an educational standpoint, if you want to go out, that's not, you just have to let that person know and you can
I'll
go
have to take
along
along.
from
There you go.
learning process, so. Yeah.
So, because I know nothing about this process. It sounds like, so they will come here and like talk to their plan? Is that what you
Yeah,
were
so
saying?
just say this is a real meeting and somebody's before the board, the commission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would come before the commission and then present their plan, go over it. Behind you is where the plans get displayed. They'll have a professional representative before the commission talking about the project. The public's invited. They get a notice about the project in their area. They'll come, some people come on Zoom and then go through it. The commission, they always present, and the commission will ask questions, and there's a back and forth, and then it gets open to the public if they have questions. That's kind of the whole
Okay.
process. And then as a commission member, we already did talk about that, but that information goes out to the commissioners before the meeting ahead of time, so
Okay.
you have the material through the.
You can prepare your questions.
Yeah, you can be prepared when the commission comes around. And then, as when Caitlin was here as the agent, she would prepare a report with recommendations and pictures and so forth. So that would go into the, distribute to the commissioners, so they had some ideas already, some direction and guidance. But you're always, at the end of the day, though, that you would be on that commission, you would vote. So it's just staff is staff. That's the.
And is it, a couple questions. Really, I'm wondering about the timeline, I guess. So do you get information the day before, the week before, the month before? And then once you have the in-person meeting, are you voting in that meeting within a certain amount of time after the meeting?
So it's typically the Thursday before so the meeting is on the Wednesday. The stuff gets sent out to commission members. So you have access to the shared drive. So it's really, a month is pretty far ahead. Projects don't.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I was just throwing out words.
Yeah.
you know?
It's a much shorter process in terms of timeline.
Okay.
And sometimes they don't have everything, so you're going to get additional information
In person.
in process. Yeah.
Is it
So-
required to, everything that needs to go in the meeting has to be in within 7 days? So that's why the shared drive will go out on usually a Thursday, and then you'd have time to go over what was going on. You have meeting notes that you can take home, like if you had a meeting this week, Next month, you have a meeting, shared drive comes out, you get your notes from the last meeting for the items that get carried over. So, and then if you had any question, you always look at, view the meeting.
So you could tell me on your end, because I'm not on your end. I mean, the other meetings, you still have access to the shared drive? Like if you want to look at the document, it doesn't go away?
I don't know about the shared drive. We're able to go into the.
Once you
agenda.
download it, it should
Okay,
be.
you download it.
Right.
So that's, I guess, what
Right.
members do.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the other side, I don't know.
Right.
So,
I mean, the best thing to do, honestly, would perhaps watch a couple of meetings, prior meetings, to give you a little better perspective of what to expect. I mean, each one's different naturally, so perhaps break it up, maybe go back 6 months, look at 1 or 2 there, and then, follow through. But for the most part, it'll give you a better idea of, the way things go and don't go at times. So.
Yeah, because you could see, like, when somebody would have a meeting, and then we'd say, there's like 5 or 6 things that are missing from your plan. Some might be just missing a couple of flags, some might be really simple, some verbiage is missing on their plan. Others might be, you didn't flag anything, so you need to come back next month. And then next month, they might say, oh, I couldn't get a guy to do it, so we're just going to continue to the next month. So you could see that those are the things that happen as time goes. Unfortunately, we try to do everything we can to get the applicant through because we only meet once a month. Once in a while, we'll say, we'll sign orders of condition, which is telling them what they need to do. And as long as they do these, they have our approval to do the work. We could add in, you need to add 2 flags to your map as part of the orders of condition. So that way they don't have to come back next month and do it. So, we try to be as flexible as possible and understand, the people are trying to do a job the best they can, and we only meet once a month, and, we try to help them out. But Richard's door is always open to them, so it's never that Richard hasn't answered them or they can't get in touch with somebody. So
I know you email me. I don't always have all the answers.
Sorry, I forgot you're the town planner, you're not on the commission, so I'm like, I don't know if that's the right move. The only other contact I had was, I think, David, who was like the head or anything, so I was like, I don't know if I want to reach out to him directly.
No, that's fine. No. You had a good question, so I need to do some homework, because, like I said, the conservation's on the land use, but I don't have that breadth of knowledge as if, as like, Caitlin was.
The agent.
She was pretty, she had a lot of knowledge. She was very well experienced and had a lot of.
And she had a big backdrop with her mom.
Yeah,
Right.
she had a mom that was in the business, so she.
Right.
She grew up in the
She
business.
grew up in the business, so,
Yeah,
so she definitely.
marking wetlands and
Yeah,
writing
so-
reports as a little kid.
Yeah, so.
She's had that her whole life, so
Yeah.
we were very fortunate to have her the time we had her.
We were, yeah. So, is there any other questions that you have? In terms of process, the commission will have to, as you know, there's four people put their name in, there's only 3 spots. 2 open, and so David has resigned, so his seat is open now, so there's 2 that will need to be filled. And then the 3rd member is working to move out of town, so at some point his position on the commission will open up. But the select board would be they're the appointing authority, but they look to the commission for recommendations. Ultimately, but it's ultimately the select board, which is different. We could go, we'll do a refresher on
That's what
that.
Adam's talking about, where it's like, okay, you're going to learn a lot about the town.
You're going to learn a lot, yeah, that's right. So, which is, but it's good
Knowledge
that
is
you're,
power.
yeah, it's good that you're, learning this younger, because you learn on the job about local government, I think sometimes. It's not in the classroom as much, this stuff, right? Which, that's a whole nother story.
Because every town is built a little different, and,
Yeah.
some have a different form of government other
Yeah.
than selectmen and
Right.
select person. And then, so some have a bigger planning board, some have bigger select boards, they have 5 members instead of 3, and it's, it's different. And small
True,
towns are a little
yeah.
different than, some of the bigger
yeah.
towns, and,
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to someone that was, when was on the Bellingham Conservation Commission. They meet twice a month, and they're 3 hours a meeting. So,
Glad we don't have that.
what's that?
Glad we don't have that. That would be.
Yeah.
No.
So the other thing you have is you have opportunities to serve on, as a representative from Conservation Commission, on another board, commission, or committee. So Paul serves on CPA, which is our community appropriations committee, that part of your tax dollar comes off, and this preservation fund, the town moves funds to pay for, like, cleaning the ponds, buying land for open space, playgrounds, whatever they deem is necessary for the capital improvements that are in their guideline by the state, is giving them like a specific list of what they can do. So as that committee meets, Paul is there saying, hey, we need money for maintenance of the waterways, so they don't get bad and spending god-awful money. Then we have an open space committee right now that Peter's on, and he goes to that meeting. So as time goes on, there's different opportunities open up, and, you're also welcome, if there's, several large projects coming into town, you're all more than welcome to go to, as the projects go through, watch the select meeting like we did last week, with a big project coming in, or go to a meeting. You just have to be careful. You can't, like, I can't go to the select meeting and say, I'm from conservation and this is how we feel. I can go and say,
It's a
I'm Jim
Norfolk
Wilson.
resident.
I live on, this is my address.
Yeah.
This is how I feel about the project. But it puts me in kind of a funny spot being on the commission, so we go just to listen. We have had people come in here and say, I'm from here and you need to do this. And I'm like, no, we don't. We really don't. So, so we're allowed to go to these other things. Just, we pride ourselves on being above board. And, like, if you have a question, you go to Richard, because if you come to either one of us and we've got information going back and forth, we might violate the open meeting laws. Because if we're talking about one project, then it's not fair to the applicant, and it's not fair to the neighbors, anybody that's watching the project. And it wouldn't be fair to the applicant if we all met over coffee and decided somebody's fate, and then came into the meeting and we're all like, this is what we're going to do. That's not fair either. So that's why we operate the way we do.
Unbiased votes.
All right.
Good.
So I have one question. What if we all decided to go to like a baseball game together? Would we have to bring Andrew to videotape us?
You might want to go. I don't know. It depends on baseball game it is. No.
Well, I look good on camera. I don't know about the rest of you.
Yeah. Well, you can attend social events. So.
There you go. Sure. Well, you can attend any meeting as a resident,
Yeah.
Norfolk resident, but not as a board member.
Right. There can be occasions here or there where the commission might attend some other meeting, but then we would post it so that you could attend a different board, and you could, as a commission, you could interact in that capacity. That doesn't really happen. I can't really call it.
The advisory board.
The advisory board.
They
so-
actually went out and invited all the members of all the commissions to
Yeah,
come in,
yeah,
committees
so-
and boards. So that's a little bit different. They
Yeah.
asked us to come in that position.
Right.
So it's different from going to the advisory board and stating a position that, as a member of a commission that you're
Right.
not invited to.
Yep.
anything.
Our goal is to keep you on point so you don't get in trouble too, so staff.
There you go.
right?
You guys are having this conversation. I'm like, the last thing I'm gonna do is like, within my first few months of like being on the board, be like, so actually, yeah, I'm gonna go over and tell you guys how to do your job because I know best.
I don't think that'd go over too well, but you're welcome to try.
Well, excellent. So the commission will have to, I don't know, make some recommendations, then go to select board. So the process, well, I'm trying to think, I don't know the select board schedule off the top of my head, but it's going to be a couple weeks out, I think. So we'll keep you posted though. Is that all right?
It's more than okay. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well,
Thanks
thank you
all
for
your
coming
time.
in.
I know
Yeah,
it's
thank
really
you.
late, so
Thank you.
I appreciate you stayed this whole time to meet all of us. So
So,
thank you too, Adam.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll ask you, but I think you probably would want to kind of mull things over and,
I do.
Yeah.
you know, so,
I try not to make any decisions in
Exactly.
haste. I'd like to
Yep.
give them the due diligence and, contemplate it on taking everything in. I made a few notes, for myself, just to refresh, but I will.
Yeah, I think it'd be best that maybe we, do it the next meeting, kind of go over what we think, and
yeah, so we'll,
That'll be.
I like what Val said about having a diverse commission, which really makes it better, because when I first joined with David, it was mostly contractors.
Yeah, and if you only have one point of view and.
Right, that was the point of view.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a
that's
good
gonna
one.
Skew
It
it.
was, and it created issues because it was, oh, it's just him. And it can't be that way. And it's good to have views other than, solid ecological views, but somebody who's not in that business to be able to, kind of gain some knowledge and.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll see something from a different point of view, like even if you don't have that knowledge base,
Yeah.
you might see something differently.
Or say, I thought the rule was 50 feet's 50 feet. What are we doing here?
Well, I myself have always said diversity is the key, but I also always try and look towards experience, that does, have merit in of itself.
Yeah.
So especially if you have resources to draw from, I try and always analyze it based on that, what they bring to the table or what potentially their life experiences bring to the table. Be it, gardener to builder, makes no difference. It's, drawing on the resources at hand.
No, I think, what I liked about all four is they all had that common, they want to learn more about the town, or they have the ability to help the commission.
Are we
Or they want-
discussing this now online?
no. Yeah,
No.
that was
Right.
kind of,
Yeah,
we'll put it on for
right.
for your Wednesday meeting.
I agree.
Yeah.
Surely.
Hey,
I second
I
that.
have one thing I'd like to say. I'd be remiss if I didn't, because we just discussed diversity of the board, and there's one glaring error on the board. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's no double X chromosomes.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, and I know there's nothing we can do about it, and we just published in the
yeah.
public paper, but what sort of outreach could we do to get a female perspective on the board? Because, it would look good.
I hate to say that's sexist remark, or could be construed as a sexist remark.
No.
Well, I'm just
No,
saying, look, I enjoy, pretty and, looking at it and making the place smell nice. I'm all about that. My question being, I didn't see any of them that were signing up. You had a girl, you tell, Blade.
Hey, don't get offended at me, but.
Not me.
And it wasn't about anybody, but it is kind of curious, because they're the guys that responded,
Well,
But it would be beneficial to have a female perspective on the board. So I'm not pointing any fingers, and it's kind of sexist not to acknowledge it, actually.
Well, I acknowledge it, but how do you attract it? I mean, that's...
Well, I didn't say I knew how to remedy it, but what kind of outreach could we do? That's the question. not
Are
what
we
have
supposed
failed.
to?
All right, why don't we can
Yeah,
kind of...
look into
we
that.
can mull it over, how's that?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
There you go.
There was just one thing that I wanted to add too. We should consider just telling people more about the open space as the fallback for anybody who doesn't get selected to be on the board, right?
That's very good.
Then maybe they could be our public member
Yeah,
for the open space and rec.
There you
That's a
go.
good
We
idea.
need 4 members there,
Right.
right?
right.
Public members?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or indeed,
So, I mean-
guide them to other boards that currently are looking for board members to be replaced. I'm sure we're not the only
Yeah,
understaffed.
but you will have 4, to Lane's point, 4
So-
citizens to look.
Maybe we try the newspaper for the open,
Well, actually, people have already,
you
I
gotta,
do know, like, that's on the survey question, and
Yeah.
there has been people submitting names already, so it is a
oh,
pretty
good,
good,
good.
To draw
there's a
from.
pretty good list of people already that put in, but certainly, I think any of the people who met tonight certainly could,
Yeah,
that's a good point, so. Because ultimately, when you get through the process of the open space, the recommendation will be to put forth a permanent open space and recreation committee to then move and kind of work on those, the items under that plan, so there'll be
kind
those
of work between
opportunities.
us and recreation.
Yeah, so,
No, I agree, I think that is something that,
yeah, so,
would that be under us or under recreation, or would be under,
it'll really be standalone, but you'll have so we'll have a combination of people who will be on
similar to
it.
CPC?
Similar to the Open Space Steering Committee today, like
Okay.
you'll kind of figure out how you want to put it together, but the thought is to have a permanent committee. We're getting off tough.
Okay,
Well, we can talk about it later.
For
How's that?
another day, I'm
Another
thinking,
day, I think,
I hear my mama calling me.
yeah, I hear you. So,
Hey, that wasn't an indictment of us. That was not an indictment of anyone. My comments earlier.
Oh, of course not.
I wasn't trying to insult or hurt anyone.
No, listen.
I understand.
Like I might have offended someone.
I'm all about it, but, in law enforcement, we used to call that profiling, and that's against the law, just to be clear. All right? You can't
Well, we will see you guys next.
specifically search out.
We have to vote to close the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. So, I need a motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion to close this meeting.
A second?
Valso, and I second.
Okay, roll call. Adam?
Adam Zucker, aye.
Paul Khalil, aye.
Jim Wilson, aye.
Valso, and I.
The vote passes, the meeting's closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Have a